Please take your seats. Programming will start momentarily. Thank you.
Good morning. Is everybody ready? Yeah? Hey, what's going on up there? Hi, SBA. Thank you guys for taking a seat. It's so amazing to see so many of your beautiful faces. Please, it would be my honor if you guys would welcome the 33rd Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Leslie Rollins.
Good morning, good morning. Well, who is excited to celebrate National Ag Day? This is so exciting. I'm so grateful. I mean, you're going to get to hear from all these incredible people behind me. We've got another few on their way who aren't here just quite yet. But let's welcome our guests, Administrator Loeffler, Secretary Kennedy, Administrator Zeldin, Dr. Oz. They're all going to be here with us at USDA to celebrate National Ag Day. Y'all welcome them really, really big. And this isn't in my remarks, but did I see some FFAers in the, oh, stand up, please. Look at our future farmers of America. Let's go. Great to see y'all. And a very special surprise, my husband, Mark Rollins, joined down here on the end. Hello, Mark Rollins. He's actually in town for another meeting, but decided he didn't want to miss National Ag Day, so it's so great to have you. Listen, everyone, thank you all so much for being here. what an honor, what a blessing, what a joy it is to celebrate this National Ag Day. You all have some placards in your chairs. We're going to talk a little bit about that in just a minute. We've got a big announcement today. We've got a video on cue for everyone to watch in just a few minutes, and then we're going to get to hear from so many of our great partners across the government and others out on the Hill and out in the countryside. So again, I want to thank everyone for coming today and for joining us for National. It is National Ag Day, but we also have a little celebration on Friday with the President of the United States. So agriculture is back at the center of policy making in Washington, D.C. How great is that? Day in and day out, our farmers feed and fuel and clothe our nation and truly the entire world. You all have seen the numbers. We're down now to Americans that actually till the soil and grow the cattle and work the fields and pick the apples. We're down to about 2% of our population, but that 2% feeds all of our country and the rest of the world. We are indeed the world's breadbasket, and we should be so proud of that. And today, on this National Ag Day, it is even more appropriate to celebrate, as this is America's 250th birthday. Our job and mission at USDA is making sure that all of our farmers and all of our ranchers and all of our producers are able to continue to do what they do best by empowering them to preserving their way of life, to ensuring that our farmers and ranchers aren't just surviving, which has been unfortunately the modus operandi for a long time now, but moving into a new era, a golden age, if you will, of prosperity and of thriving. As we all know, under the last administration, the cost of doing business skyrocketed, the cost of inputs exploded, whether it was fuel at 33%, seeds at 19%, fertilizer up 48%, labor up 44%, interest expenses up 70% in those 4 years, while at a time not one new trade deal was struck. When we left in the first administration, we had an ag surplus of our goods being shipped around the world. When we came back, it was a $50 billion agricultural deficit. So we have been working really hard. And 1 year ago in a couple weeks, I stood on this stage on day one of my tenure as the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture, the greatest honor of my professional life. And we talked about the importance of finding those new deals, of opening those markets, of supporting all of our producers, of cutting the red tape, of making sure they could keep more of their own money through tax cuts, thank you, John Hoeven, of ensuring that we could protect our family farms from the death tax and giving them the opportunity, Tucker Brown, of being able to give to the 8th generation the next level of ranching, et cetera, et cetera. And we have so much work to do, we realize that, but we are so grateful and so thankful for what we've been able to achieve so far. My boss, the negotiator in chief, we now have 18 new trade deals. And y'all, I think that deserves a big round of applause. 18 new trade deals. Whether it's the EU, the United Kingdom, Japan, Mexico, all of Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Thailand, etc. This is the foundation married to domestic supply. How about a year-round E15? Shout out, everybody. We're getting there, John Oven. 45Z, etc., marrying that expanded domestic supply with all of these new trade deals around the world. We've taken what was a $50 billion agricultural trade deficit 1 year ago, and we have cut that in half in 1 year. Our corn exports are up 29%. Our ethanol exports are up 11%. Our tree nut exports are up 11%, and there is more good news coming. Last year, understanding that we aren't going to get there overnight, that we do need to make sure that the most American of Americans, our farmers and ranchers, have what they need in the context of national security to ensure that these farmers can keep ranching, our ranchers can keep ranching, that we don't lose any more. We've lost 150,000 farms and ranches in the last decade or so. We have to stop that trend. And so whether it was the Farmer Bridge Assistance, whether it was the Emergency Economic Assistance, whether it was the Livestock Disaster Assistance, all of the programs that were moved out at the quickest speed in the history of USDA, we will not forget that those bridge assistance programs are so very important. But every farmer and every rancher I've ever talked to said, we don't want to farm for government checks. We want a farm to be able to sell our product. The righteousness and the dignity of the work should be enough. And so ultimately, the vision, of course, is to off-ramp. But in the meantime, working so hard to get those payments out. Just a few weeks ago, we announced our One Farmer, One File, making sure that before we leave in 3 more years, that every producer in America that participates in our USDA programs, and there's quite a few of them, that they can do it in the easiest, simplest way with one time, rather than having to move across all of the different agency projects. Within that first One Farmer, One File announcement, we launched the Farmer Bridge Assistance as the first piece of that to see how it would work. And in the first 4 days of launching Farmer Bridge Assistance payments married to our One Farmer, One File, we saw 50 times more producers sign up online than we did in ECAP over the 5 months of last year. Are taking it to the farmers and making sure they have what they need. Adoption is up over 5,000%. And of course, this is at a time where the president has asked all of us in the administration to do things more efficiently, to move them out more quickly. And while we were building One Farmer, One File, a big shout out to Sam and our IT team here. We had over 1,000 contractors spending more than $1 billion in FPAC alone. And now we have completely redirected all of that funding and all of that money and gotten rid of all of that outside bureaucracy. I just couldn't be more proud of that IT team, and we thank you for that. We've had a big round of applause. I'm sure they're here somewhere. We're lowering the cost of business for our farmers through a new adverse effect wage rate rule for H2A. We understand that labor and the labor needs of our agriculture community continue to be paramount, especially in certain areas of agriculture. We will continue to work alongside you to get what you need. And our friends on the Hill are working on that round the clock. But just that one rule change last year in H2A will save our farmers $2 billion a year by changing that one rule. Lower labor costs. For my Texas farmers, I'll never forget, I went down and visited the Schuster farm, the Rio Grande Fresh Farm in South Texas, and we stood at the border. And Courtney Schuster, an amazing farmer, a great Texas Aggie, she showed me where she was planting right next to the border wall, but what she had to pay under the current Biden H2A, all in with housing and transportation and all the things, was close to $30 to $35 an hour versus the workers across the border with the farmers on the other side in Mexico were paying $2 an hour for the exact same labor. There's obviously a medium in there somewhere, and that's what we're working to move toward. But ensuring that we cut that labor weight under the H2A by 40% has been, I think, one of the most important things we've done in the last year. I also want to mention the One Big Beautiful Bill, and Chairman John Hoeven is here. Welcome, big round of applause. His leadership has been really important. I know you represent a lot of your friends on the Hill, John, but I specifically remember a little lunch that we had last March as the One Big Beautiful Bill, the reconciliation process began. And he and Senator Bozeman and I had a conversation. What if we could perhaps this may be a crazy idea, but since no farm bill was passed under the last administration, since the reference prices were more than a decade old, since so many of our farmers were facing uncertain, perilous times, what if we could move a lot of the gist of the farm bill into the reconciliation, the one big beautiful bill? We didn't know if it was possible, but thanks to President Trump's leadership, thanks to the leadership of those on the Hill, especially this man sitting behind me, and thanks to so many of you, we were able to move so much of what the farmers and ranchers had been needing into the one big beautiful bill. Not only raising reference prices, not only updating critical farm programs, not only making the death tax exemption permanent, which I heard from so many farmers across the country, but also raising it to limit and indexing it for inflation. Not only all of that, but just the tax cuts so that our farmers and ranchers and small business owners can keep more of the money that they make. These permanent tax tools for our farmers, including 100% immediate expensing and small business expensing, which was doubled. These were key, important changes that were made, again, thanks to the leadership of this administration and our leaders on the Hill that have shown what putting agriculture and farmers and ranchers first really look like. And when we do that, and understanding that if we want to pass on freedom to the next generation, and if we want our children and our grandchildren to understand what liberty and freedom looks like, that farm security is national security. If we're not able to preserve this way of life, if we're not able to ensure that we are feeding ourselves, if we're not able to stop any reliance on foreign-owned companies and Chinese-owned farmland, and the list goes on, then America that we know it here at our 250th birthday will no longer exist in the way that our founders envisioned and what everyone in this room is working toward and fighting for to preserve the great American experiment. That is how existential I believe this work at USDA is, in partnership with so many wonderful people across our cabinet and across America. We just couldn't be more grateful. So that takes me to the announcement today, again, putting America first, putting American ranchers and farmers first. From protecting private property rights and ending lawfare against our farmers to our commitment to making America healthy again, Bobby Kennedy. He'll talk a little bit about how important that is to our farmers. From expanding markets even more, not only abroad, but here at home, as I mentioned, to the Trump administration's massive deregulation effort. I remember when I thought getting rid of 2 old regulations for 1 new one seemed like a huge moonshot, and now today it's 129 old regulations out the door across the administration for every 1 new one that's coming in. All of our work is beginning to pay off. We're making real progress. We have a lot more to do, but we are making real progress, but we aren't letting up. And that's what makes today's announcement, our product of the USA, so exciting. Cue the video.
It means a standard. An American standard.
It means it was born here, raised here, processed here.
It means the healthiest food for a healthier future.
If you're going to use the American flag,
It better be American.
From start to finish, supporting American farmers, ranchers,
And producers. This is what America looks like.
Built on grit, backed by the people who live it.
From generation.
There's no faking the standard, Doug, when you see this label.
It means exactly what it says.
Born here, raised here,
Processed here.
from the land of the free. Product of USA.
To that end, our Product of the USA rule that governs the labeling of our meat, poultry, and egg producers is in effect. But what does it mean? And now we launch into the massive outreach phase. It means for meat and poultry products to boast that they are, in fact, a product of the USA. The animals now have to have been entirely born, raised, harvested, and processed here in this country, which is a change. It all has to happen in this country. Not some of it, not part of it here, and then it goes somewhere else, and then it comes back, but every bit of it. And that's what the label that you see is all about. No shortcuts, no exceptions, and no confusion. No more foreign beef being deceptively passed off as America's best. It ends today. This new label is about enhancing competitiveness for our producers, our great American producers, by leveling the playing field and increasing transparency through truthful labeling. Because what our ranchers raise in this country is the very best in the entire world. It is why, as we're opening up these markets in the UK and Australia and others, more countries want our beef. But also on the flip side, it's about doing right by our consumers in this country, by clearing up all confusion about what made in the USA actually means. Consumers deserve clear, truthful labels. American ranchers deserve a level playing field, and that's what we are delivering. But in order to deliver, people need to know about this, which is why we are thrilled today to announce a new public awareness campaign that is sure to go viral, and we have a lot of people in the room who are going to help us do that, entirely focused on supporting American meat, poultry, and egg products that truly are a product of the USA. And to tell that story, as you saw in the video, we didn't go to actors, we went to the real deal. World rodeo champions like Rocker Steiner and Riley Webb and Cassie Mowry and Peyton Bray and Cooper James, men and women who live the Western way of life every single day. Just a few weeks ago, you probably all saw, we were all in the Oval Office with the president. The president had 15 minutes on his schedule to do a very quick meet and greet with these NFR rodeo champions. And about an hour and a half later, we were all walking up to the residence for him to show them the Lincoln bedroom. This president's heart and dedication and passion to our Western way of life and to those who represent it is real. Today marks the starting of an exciting new era for ag products made entirely here in America, and we just couldn't be more excited about that. Speaking of a new era for American products, for homegrown, locally produced products that will make America healthy again, please help me welcome, thank you all for being here, my great partner in this effort, our amazing Secretary of Health and Human Services, the incredible Robert F. Kennedy, Jr.
Thank you, Brooke Rollins. One of the great pleasures of having this job, and it's the funnest and best job that I've ever had, but is this partnership that and friendship between me and Brooke. We talk to each other almost every day. And that's the first time that's happened in American history where an HHS secretary is actually coordinating policy with a USDA secretary. And we've traveled around the country together. We visited ranchers, we visited farms, local producers, and everything that we do is laser focused, as our president wants, on making sure that we have good, healthy food for the American people, and the only way to do that is by having prosperous farms in this country. The president recognizes that. He wants us to work together, and he wants us to make both things happen coterminously. When Brooke and I came in, we have the responsibility for signing off on the dietary guidelines. And the Biden administration had worked for 4 years developing new dietary guidelines. We came in on the same day, about a year and a month ago yesterday. And about a week after we got in, we were handed the new dietary guidelines that we were just supposed to promulgate at that point. They were 453 pages long. They were incomprehensible. Nobody is going to read 453 pages. No dietitian, no procurement officer, no school, no university, no prison system. Nobody is going to read that. And worst of all, they were all written by food industry lobbyists. And they reflected the same mercantile impulses that had driven Fruit Loops to the top of the food pyramid, which isn't even a food. And it's a food-like substance that poisons you. And they propagated this 70-year war on saturated fats and proteins in our country. That had taken whole milk away from our kids. That's critical micronutrients for their brain growth, their calcium, and for 2 generations, American kids were deprived of the most nutritious and appropriate meal they could because of industry lobbying. There was no study that showed, there was no real study, let me put it that way, because there was a couple of industry-funded studies back in the 50s that have been completely debunked that showed a connection between protein consumption and heart attacks. It wasn't science, it was dogma. And yet for 70 years, it was embedded in the national consciousness that if you ate meat, that it was bad for you. If you drank whole milk, that it was bad for you. And we switched Americans from a very healthy meal to what we have today, where 70% of the calories that our kids eat are highly refined carbohydrates or ultra-processed food. And predictably, as a result of that, we have the sickest generation in the history of mankind. We have the sickest people. We have the highest chronic disease burden in the world. We spend 2 to 3 times what other nations do on our health care. We have the best health care system, the best health care of any country. And yet we have the sickest population. And we have the worst outcomes of 79th in outcomes in our country. And yet we spend more than any other country in the world. When my uncle was president, we spent 0 on chronic disease. Today we spend 4.3 trillion, and almost all of it is food-induced. And these new dietary guidelines end the war against protein, end the war against saturated fats, and they get Americans good food again. And Brooke spends $405 million a day at this agency subsidizing food for the American people in Head Start, in WICS, in the SNAP program, in Indian Health Services, and many, many others. And now that food is going to be good food. Our military is going to be getting good food. And one of the reasons this is critical for the American farmer is because profits from agriculture are going to processed food companies. And that's a concentration of wealth and power that is taking both wealth and power and prosperity away from the American farmer. And we are ending that now, and we're giving those profits back to local producers, to cattlemen, ranchers, to agricultural farmers all over the country. I want to thank Brooke for her leadership, and I also want to thank Lee Zeldin, who worked tirelessly with us to make sure that the dietary guidelines also reflected the priorities of the environment and his agency, and to make sure that we could get a whole of government endorsement of the new guidelines. I want to introduce my friend, my colleague, Lee Zeldin.
Thank you to Secretary Kennedy, our chairman of the Make America Healthy Again Commission, and thank you to Brooke Rollins for hosting us here today. It's not such a big secret anymore that while Brooke is in charge of USDA every day in America is National Agriculture Day, it's on the top of the list and agenda, not just for her, but she makes it a top priority and focus all across the entire administration. To all the USDA employees who are here, thank you for your incredible service to the men and women who are here, who are the engine of the U.S. economy and our food supply. It is important for our leaders of agriculture, our farmers or ranchers all across America to have the tools that they need to be able to survive, to succeed, to thrive, to follow gold standard science, and for agencies like EPA to be transparent. And as many of Secretary Kennedy's biggest supporters say, it's an important need for us to be radically transparent with the American public. Our colleague from the cabinet is also here, Administrator Kelly Loeffler. It's great to be with you as well. And it just shows how important today is, and today's announcement is that you have 4 members of the cabinet coming together. And this is so Brooke Rollins right here, product of USA. And thank you, Brooke. Now, to make her insanely jealous, though, as I leave here, I'm heading to Texas. So that's where her heart is. No offense to anyone who's based here in D.C., but it is a privilege to be here. EPA is focused on a number of very important topics that are key for agriculture all across America. We are in the process of finalizing right now a new definition of waters of the United States. It's important for our farmers, our ranchers, our landowners to have a definition that is simple, that no longer requires you to hire an attorney or a consultant to tell you whether or not water on your property is a water of the United States. It is important to appropriately limit the power of the federal government so that there is no longer over-regulation, understanding that our state and local leaders know their land, air, and water better than federal bureaucrats. We want to get it right. After I was sworn in, I traveled to all 50 states, a lot of time spent with farmers and a lot of stories about tractors that were breaking down in the middle of harvest because of their diesel exhaust fluid systems. So we are working on a number of fixes to be as responsive as possible to it. Last August, with Administrator Loeffler and Secretary Rollins, EPA announced new guidance that significantly reversed the deratements for these systems. We need to go further. We are going further. We sent out a request to 14 engine manufacturers to get data that we can rely on to make a decision that permits us to go further on this issue. New guidance, new rulemaking, including, by the way, new guidance that was put out with regards to right to repair. Too often our farmers have been forced to go to certain authorized dealers to repair their farm equipment. Our farmers should have the ability to repair their farm equipment themselves if they please, and there was too much red tape that was preventing them from being able to do that. Our upcoming proposal for a new rulemaking, though, going even further, we are looking at getting rid of deratements altogether on equipment, eliminating the deratements completely that are caused by the diesel exhaust fluid system. Again, trying to be as responsive as we possibly can to the concerns of agriculture. Before the end of this month, we will be releasing the new renewable volume obligation numbers. This has also been a partnership with through the interagency process to be able to get it right. When we came into this position 14 months ago, we inherited a lot of backlogs. Pesticide review, by the way, the backlog was 14,500. New chemicals, 400. Small refinery exemptions, 175. But the renewable volume obligations were supposed to be set in November of 2024. That deadline was blown, but never again will that be blown. We are fixing that just like we are with all the other backlogs that were inherited and processes that needed to be fixed. It is important for this administration to follow the law, and for us at EPA, it has allowed us to pursue a lot of necessary deregulation, as was referenced by Secretary Rollins so eloquently. The Supreme Court, in a decision called Loper-Bright, overturned what's called the Chevron doctrine. What that means is that no longer can a rogue, unelected bureaucrat like you might find at an agency at the federal government, no longer can you just get creative with the federal law, look at a law and say, well, I guess because it doesn't say we can't, I guess that means that we can. No, we're going to follow the best reading of the law. And following the best reading of the law is why we just announced with President Trump in the Roosevelt Room in the White House the largest act of deregulation in the history of the United States. We believe at the EPA that you can protect the environment and grow the economy. It's not a binary choice between the two, where in order to protect the environment, we have to suffocate entire sectors of our economy out of existence. And our farmers who are here need the support of the federal government every day. And Secretary Rollins making every day National Agriculture Day all throughout the federal government is the leadership that we need, and it's an honor to be here alongside her for today's very big announcement. So thank you to Secretary Rollins, to the Deputy Secretary here, and to all of the leaders of USDA, to Zippy Duval and for his leadership with the Farm Bureau. And without any further ado, it is my honor to introduce a woman who's in charge of the Small Business Administration, but someone who is a Georgian at heart, someone who never forgets the farmers and often calls me up on issues that at times you might think have nothing to do with the Small Business Administration, but she's contacting the EPA to fight for issues important for our farmers. Administrator Kelly Loeffler.
Wow. Well, good morning and happy National Agriculture Day. What a great honor to be here to celebrate it with all of you. Thank you, everyone at USDA. No one does it like USDA. I mean, this is epic. I have many members of the SBA here. We're so honored to partner with you, Brooke, with Secretary Rollins, Mr. Deputy Secretary. Thank you. So look, President Trump understands that the American farmer, rancher, and agriculture industry is vital to our national strength and security, and that's why he's stood with all of us since day one. And it's also why he's entrusted this great agency to Secretary Rollins. Brooke, thank you so much for your dedication to agriculture every single day, for your friendship, for your leadership, and frankly, that goes for everyone on the stage here. It's such an honor. No administration has been more dedicated to America's original small business owners, the farmers, the ranchers, the agribusiness leaders. You create the fabric of our nation. It's woven together in a strong patchwork of rural America that keeps our country fed, fueled, clothed, and free. Like many of you, I was born in rural America. I was raised as the fourth generation on my family's corn, soybean, and cattle farm. I worked the feedlots, the soybean fields, and my parents actually had me fill out a little yellow time card when I worked in those fields to see how hard it was to earn $1. I'm grateful for that. And in the summer, I was able to show my feeder cattle in 4-H, along with my friends who had hogs, sheep, goats, and horses. I truly, and you would expect that my parents met at the Houston Livestock Show, so it was preordained. And now today I treasure my memories, whether it was sweeping machine sheds, taking lunches and dinners out to the field to my dad and grandpa to sit on the tailgate of a pickup truck for 5 minutes to eat with them. I listened along with my mom and grandmother to the futures prices at the Chicago Board of Trade on our AM radio so we could report them out to the guys in the field. But I also saw my parents struggle, not just with weather, with insects, with markets. It was the cost of rising regulations, the unfair trade balance, and the hollowing out of rural America. All of that only grew worse under the 4 years of Bidenomics, which heaped pain on farmers and ranchers. And today is all about making sure that that never, ever happens again. It's about reversing the damage that threatens to erase 250 years of America's hardest working industry. And it's about committing to the next generation of producers like my brother and nephew, Brian and Colin, who now run our 5-generation family farm today. President Trump is fighting for all of you, not Green New Deal radicals, not big government bureaucrats. He knows the grit and the faith, the toil and the tears, and the calluses and the intellect that it requires. He knows that those who wake up well before dawn, not knowing if they're going to break even, are essential to American strength, national security, and well-being. Now, 97% of all farmers in this nation are family farms, small businesses, which is why since the start of this administration, the SBA has worked overtime to deliver for rural communities and small businesses across the food supply chain. And last year, we delivered $7 billion in small business loans across rural America. We moved 30% of our workforce out of Washington, D.C. and into the field. That's where our small businesses are, and we moved them out of sanctuary cities into our heartland where our main streets are. I'm thrilled in year one that we cut over $100 billion in crushing red tape, and that has been a great honor to work with Secretary Rollins, Secretary Zeldin, to ensure that we push back on onerous DEF requirements. And I know firsthand, if you want to hear a farmer cuss, talk about DEF. I mean, I hear it every day when I talk to my dad and my brother. To talk about WOTUS, the important work of repealing the endangerment finding, and finally, through President Trump's working family tax cuts and the fair trade agenda, that's 100% expensing. That's 20% pass-through deductions. That's cutting the death tax. That's certainty for the first time. It's the certainty that big business always had, that small farmers and ranchers who put it all on the line every day did not have until President Trump. He funded $50 billion in rural health care and so much more. So we're putting power back into free enterprise. We're unleashing the new golden age of American agriculture, and together we're restoring rural communities, which are the soul of our nation. In fact, I think it is very fitting that as we celebrate 250 years and the values that certainly made ours the greatest nation on earth, that we also elevate agriculture. It's no mistake that the Bible, from Genesis to the Gospels, relies upon farming to illustrate some of life's most important principles: faith, patience, hard work, preparation, and gratitude. With God's providence, farmers built this nation, and you will continue to lead its strength, health, security for the next era of American exceptionalism. On behalf of every future generation, thank you for your dedication to sustaining the strength of American agriculture and for representing the very best of America. May God bless you. May God bless America. Thank you so much.
It's so great to have such partners in the cabinet. Administrator Loeffler and I are in a Bible study together every week, and it always seems to go back to the farmer while we're in Scripture. We take it back. So thank you, Kelly, for everything. You're great. Our next speaker, the incredible Chairman John Hoeven, the senior senator from North Dakota, former governor. One of the very first conversations I had when I was named to be the Agriculture Secretary, no one more committed to this community than this man. And Senator, we're just so grateful for all you do. Chairman John Hoeven, everybody.
Well, who agrees with me that Brooke Rollins is a dynamo for agriculture? Anyone agree with that? I mean, wow. Thank you, Secretary, and thanks for inviting me to be part of this great National Ag Day celebration. And what do you think of this? Pretty cool, right? Pretty cool, yeah? Product of USA. Fantastic. I got to say, I think I started working on cool. You know, the kind of labeling that our ranchers have wanted for years. And I know you're going to put muscle behind this, Secretary, and it's going to make an incredible difference. You know, when I'm in a city somewhere, I always like to start out by saying that our farmers and ranchers produce the highest quality, lowest cost food supply in the world that benefits every single American every single day. And I like to say that when I start, and I like to say that at the end, and everybody probably tunes out during the middle, but hopefully they catch that part, because it's true. And so getting farm policy right is so incredibly important. And this product of USA is going to be helpful to our ranchers. And you know, right now our ranchers are doing better, but they've come out of a long cycle where they were really suffering. And they're out there and they're working dawn to dark and raising the absolute best beef anywhere in the world, bar none. And for a long time, boy, it's been really tough for them. And so finally now we're in a better cycle, and boy, nobody deserves it more. And they're working now to grow those herds, so not only will Americans continue to have the very best beef, but also to have it at a fair price. And this labeling is so important because people want to know. They want to know that those animals truly were born, raised. In the old days, Brooke, Secretary, we said slaughtered. I guess now it's processed. But either way, they want to know those animals started and ended right here in the United States, because we truly do have the best beef in the world. And so this is a great thing for our ranchers, and we appreciate it so much. I want to take just a minute, too, on this National Ag Day to mention our farmers. And we got Zippy here, and you know, we appreciate this great work on behalf of our rancher secretary, but we know how hard you and the Deputy Secretary of Vaden, the Undersecretary Fordyce, who was in the front row a minute ago, we know how hard you're working for our farmers, too. And we saw that you mentioned the One Big Beautiful Bill, and in the One Big Beautiful Bill, we really did put the heart and soul of the Farm Bill in that bill, and you're 100% right, thanks to your leadership, the leadership of President Trump, and our work on the Hill. We got it in there. The two key elements that our farmers rely on every single day, and as Secretary Loeffler said, think about it. About 16 million people involved directly or indirectly in agriculture, and these are family farms and businesses, right? Now, it's sophisticated, precision ags, you know, I mean, there's a lot to it, but it's still a system of family-based farms and ranchers, and we take that for granted at our peril. Look at the concentration you have in almost every other industry, and I think Americans want that family-based system out there raising their food across this country, out there making rural America go. I think Americans want that, and they value that, and we can't take it for granted. And that's why it's so important we have the right farm policy that supports that network of family farms and businesses. And that's what we did in the One Big Beautiful Bill by finally getting the reference prices for ARC and PLC updated the way they need to be. We've got them now for 7 years and indexed. And then we also put crop insurance in there. I had a crop insurance bill. We put that in there as well that helps with good crop insurance. So year in and year out, that's the #1 risk management tool that our farmers have. And we've got to get, now the marketing year ends in October. We got to get our guys to October. So again, Secretary Rollins, President Trump, Deputy Secretary of Vaden, they stepped up with the Farm Bridge Assistance, right? And we're going to do more on that. We're working to do some more on that Farm Bridge Assistance to get our guys through to October. You'll see that as we work on the supplemental here. We've already been hard at work on it with Secretary Rollins, with the White House, and with the guy you're going to hear from next. And I know we're all just kind of the warm-up act for Zippy Duval, but he's been a dynamo for that as well, and we appreciate it so much. Look, Lee Zeldin said it right. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, every day should be Ag Day. And for me, growing up, it kind of was. I mean, my grandfather had a cattle ranch, we had horses. I come from rural America, and coming from rural America, that's why every time I'm in the city, I start and end my talks whenever I can that our farmers and ranchers raise the highest quality, lowest cost food supply that benefits every single American every single day. Have a great National Ag Day.
All right, last but certainly not least, I must admit, Zippy, this is your party. This is what the American Farm Bureau Federation puts this National Ag Day on every year on Ag Day here at USDA, no matter who's in the White House, no matter who's the Secretary of Agriculture. But we wanted to make it bigger, as big as ever, just to signify and symbolize our commitment to agriculture, to our farmers and ranchers, and to all of the great partners out there. And Zippy, you are of the first team on that. Thank you so much. Please help me welcome Zippy Duval.
Well, thank you, Madam Secretary, and I'm carrying a heavy load this morning representing all the farmers and ranchers across this country. But from the bottom of my heart and their hearts, happy National Ag Day. You know, I've been here 10 years. This is my 11th year serving as president of this great organization. And I've never had an administration that has honored this day like it really deserves. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Thank you. You know, to stand on the stage with multiple cabinet members and a president that talks about farmers being his friend and mentions agriculture almost daily, it's historical. I don't know this ever happened before in the history of this country. And it's not a better time to be focused on agriculture. And, you know, from the farmers across the country, I'm going to start out my comments by saying thank you. We know that this administration and these men and women behind me are working their hearts out, trying to build a brighter future for agriculture. Secretary Kennedy, you've given us a seat at the table, the MAHA discussion, and we've built partnerships so that we can not only make America healthy again, we can make American agriculture healthier for the future. Thank you. Administrator Zeldin ditched the rule. Where'd he go? He's not even here. He went to catch a plane. But we've been talking about ditching that rule for years. And he is ditching that rule. And I remember when I first came here, one of his predecessors says, what does the U.S. rule look like? I said, one that I can put on a dashboard of my pickup truck and ride across my field and read and say, yeah, that's not waters of the U.S. I can plant a tree there, I can plow it, or I can put a fence there. He is doing that, and we thank him for that. His work on RFS is very much appreciated. And then, of course, Senator Hoeven, the work that you're doing now, today, to try to create that next bridge payment. And the Secretary is right. I and all the other farmers in this country don't want to farm for a government check. We want to farm for the markets. But to do that, you've got to level a playing field and give us that market to do that. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the other things that we need to do. But in the absence of that, we have to have those bridge payments. And we thank you, Senator Hoeven, for your hard work there. And the One Big Beautiful Bill, Mr. President, we thank you for updating those Title I programs that are the cornerstone of our risk management tools in rural America and agriculture. It is so vitally important. It's because of these men and women and their efforts makes me optimistic about the future, because surely it doesn't look that way in agriculture today. We have to keep telling our farmers it's going to be better, because we have people fighting for us and working on policies to move us forward. You know, today's one of my favorite days because we get to reflect on this wonderful food system that we have, that they've talked about, the most affordable, the safest, most available. You can go to Walmart or any other store and buy several different kinds of green beans 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Where else in the world can you do that? Only in America can we do that. And then we reflect and focus on the men and women that get up every day, to grow the food, not for just their families, but your families. Grow that food for your families. Grow that fuel that runs that engine, that economic engine in rural America, and provides a national security so that because we can feed ourselves. And not many countries in this world can say that. But right now, there's a heavy cloud hanging over rural America. We're in a generational storm that's brewing, and it's been brewing for a long time. There's a terrible imbalance. We live in a time in agriculture where cost of inputs are higher than they've ever been before. And you heard the Secretary talk about the increases that's happened over the last few years. But we're also seeing commodity prices fall. Those things that we buy are going up, fertilizer, equipment, everything that we have to purchase to make sure that we produce that product for your family to consume is going up. But the things that we're selling you, those prices are going down continuously. I say generational storm because some of those prices are at 1975 levels. What if your paycheck reflected your paycheck of 1975? That's what farmers are facing today. Falling income, and there's so many of our family farms that just can't keep going. This is the 5th consecutive year that farmers are going to see declining income, and it is very, very difficult. We must change. We must make changes now to bring certainty to farm country. If we wanted to have another generation of farmers, we got to act now. Never before have we ever needed leadership like we need it now, and we thank y'all for your leadership. Now, we appreciate the bridge payment, the tax relief, the regulatory reform, because that is moving in the right direction to get us through this storm. But we're at that crossroad where leadership's going to have to step up and provide some short-term solutions and continue to finalize a modernized farm bill. The President called for it last Friday, called for Congress to pass that modernized farm bill that we so desperately need to continue the work that they started in the One Big Beautiful Bill. And we need to continue to work on that bridge payment. Yeah, we don't want that government check, but if you want us to get to the benefits of the One Big Beautiful Bill, we have to have that for farmers to be able to survive this storm and get there and continue the wonderful work that's being done. Long term, we have to find a solution to our labor problems in America. These young men and women in the blue and gold, they probably in their heart desire to farm, but they can't go back to their family farm or create a farm without having labor to work on those farms. And we have fought that battle for many, many years. And then other long-term solutions are year-round E15 and increased domestic use of the products that we grow in America, grown by Americans, and using it here in our country. It is so important for us to do that. I don't mean to be Debbie Downer here, but we got a lot of important people in this room. And if I'm going to be the only farmer to speak, and yes, I am a farmer, 400 cows back home, 8 broiler houses, 3 employees, and a son that's a veterinarian having to work on the road just to survive and keep the farm going. So I understand the trials that people are going through each and every day. But today I stand here as president of American Farmer, the largest general farm organization in the world, representing all commodities that are produced and farmers and ranchers that produce it. They're the most resilient, hard-working, God-fearing men and women that get up every day to grow the food for your families, to fuel your communities, and to keep our nation secure. Because we, as America, can still feed our families from the resources here at home. I want to say congratulations to all of you on this wonderful celebration of National Ag Day. It truly is an industry that deserves the recognition that it's getting today. And we're going to continue, as your farmers and ranchers, to strive forward to continue to be able to feed your families, create policies along with these great men and women so that we can move agriculture in a direction that brings these blue and gold church coats back to our farms to create the next generation of farmers. And today is the day we got to start doing that. Thank you, and God bless you.
All right, everybody, let the celebration continue. Let the words heard today ring true. Let us never take our foot off the gas pedal as we continue to move forward, make progress to reverse the, well, as Zippy mentioned, the years and years of bad policy. But the future is bright. I sincerely believe that. I was in Nebraska yesterday with some of those ranchers that had seen the worst in their lives, the fire, but the resilience, the love, the dedication, the passion, the meeting, the moment that God has called them, all of us in this room, all of the leaders on the stage too, is right now. And may we continue to fight and win as we work to make American agriculture great again. God bless you all. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you. Thank you. Wait a minute. They pulled a trickie on me. Dr. Mehmet Oz snuck in from the right. What a way to end us today. Oh, I didn't see you over there.
That was a good ending, I thought.
That was a great ending, but we're going to let no one better than the cultural icon Mehmet Oz, who's doing so much for rural America, whose heart is with agriculture every day, who himself has cattle in Pennsylvania. Please help me welcome to close us out, Mehmet Oz. Thank you, Dr. Oz.
I sort of like that ending she had. So first off, it's a great pleasure to celebrate Ag Day, but I've got to speak from the heart and say that what agriculture is doing for America is so vitally important, and just look at the health of the country. I want to celebrate Secretary Kennedy, who has, from day one, been powering through messaging around how important food is. It was the original medicine. It was spoken about in days of Hippocrates as the fundamental way you keep a population healthy, because you're going to pay for it one way or the other. And you got to say, if I was a farmer, I'd be playing up the fact that we can either pay now to have healthy food, or you pay me later to pay for the insurance and the health hospitalizations and the health crises that result if we don't deal with this correctly. That's that great Jefferson quote speaking about the value of agriculture at many levels. Obviously, there's a value because it builds wealth. He thought it was the greatest occupation to have for that reason. It builds moral and ethical foundations, but it makes you happy. And being outside has a great role in keeping our country grounded to the values that created it. But rural America, which is where our food is grown, where our health can culminate and can originate, is also a place where we have a major crisis. Because getting access to health care in rural America is more difficult than it has ever been. We have a massive life expectancy difference with rural America bringing it up the bottom of the when you look at the lists of people and how long they live compared to urban America. These are not things that should be tolerated for a area of and a occupation in our country that is so vital to our well-being. So the 60 million people living in rural America were struggling, and President Trump and the Senate and House leadership got together and did something very brave. They passed inside the Working Families Tax Cut legislation, also called the One Big Beautiful Bill, a massive $50 billion investment in rural American health. To put that in perspective, that is 50% more money than we spend right now in rural health care. It is the largest, most ambitious investment in rural health care ever. And this president demanded it, insisted on it, because he thought that was the right place for us to invest money where the heart and soul of America have originated and lives, which is in rural America. So this program, which we were charged with putting outside, getting the money outside of Washington by the end of last year, on time, on budget, under Secretary Kennedy's leadership, we did just that. The money is in your state capitals, and I'm here in part to plead with you to make sure that your governors, who know this money's only theirs if they spend it on rural America, get the money out the door, into your pockets, into your communities, so that we can make sure that our hospitals are right-sized, that we have appropriate workforce delivery in rural America, that we don't have moms who are working 2 jobs driving across the state to provide treatment for a strep throat that could be easily diagnosed more locally, that we make sure that we build collaborations between larger healthcare institutions and the smaller ones that are often present in rural America, ones that are at risk of going under if we don't appropriately support them. All that is part of the Rural Health Transformation Fund. Now, a lot of this uses high technology, novel ways. For example, we can use AI and robotics solutions to help moms who are pregnant in Lower Alabama. That was a bid that came from Alabama. Every state put their best thoughts forward. Every governor got their best teams up there to bid for this money. Every state in America has roughly $200 million this year and every year for 5 more years. But it's only going to be used correctly if you all go out there and make sure the money is spent on things that you think are important to your well-being. Because if you're not healthy, you cannot make America healthy with making the prudes and of course, the remarkable ability of being able to say you're a product of the USA, and this whole movement's only going to be present if the American people are healthy enough to prosper in it. You keep us healthy, you keep us strong, you keep us first. We owe it back to you to do that, and the Secretary's pledged this, and Health and Human Services will be with you. And Secretary Rollins, thank you for making ag cool. It always has been. You make it even cooler. God bless you.
All right, for real this time. Thank you, everyone. Happy National Ag Day. We'll just keep battling forward. Thank y'all very much.
Where would you like this? We can probably move this. We can see them, but maybe if you feed that way. Move this, please. Oh, you're going to move it?
Yeah. So I'm just waiting for the space to be put out.
Farmers get a standing ovation every morning. Maybe just a fist bump for every meal. From the everyday PB&J, the high-end gourmet. Why don't farmers get a standing ovation every morning? Maybe just a fist bump for every meal. From the everyday PB&J, the high-end gourmet. Or a thank you note next time biofuel powers the truck that completes a delivery. Because without farmers get up early, stay up late, work till the job is done attitude, moments like these only live in our imagination. National Ag Day is the light that shines on these unseen heroes. For more than 50 years, we're the leading voice in the chorus of praises, thanking them for feeding, fueling, and clothing the nation and beyond.
Go ahead.
These
These your papers?
tenacity,
Yeah, those are mine. Yep.
Can I add them too? Yeah.
Okay.
no matter the cost.
This is, yeah, I'll take the whole thing.
Rain, drought, and their foresight for seasons ahead and decades beyond. Here's to the fence mending, livestock feeding, rock tending stewards of our environment's future. Thank you.
I'll make my introduction kind of short.
Okay, thank you.
No, it's already on. You can turn it on. Turn it on.
All right. Please join us in the front. We've got all of these seats are available. Just like school, you can take the front row. You won't get called on. So again, thank you to Secretary Rollins and everybody at the USDA for a great warm-up opening act for what is yet to come on celebrating National Ag Day. My name is Marty Walski. I'm Vice President and Publisher of Successful Farming, and I serve as this year's chair of National Ag Day, which is put on by the Agriculture Council of America every year. It's a time for all of us to come together as producers and agriculture stakeholders to recognize the greatness of American agriculture, and we've got an extraordinary program lined up for you this morning. First, we're going to hear from the future of agriculture that is represented by students coming together from FFA, 4-H, AFA, Manners, and the Tribal Agriculture Fellowship, and they're going to address the theme for today, which is Agriculture, Together We Grow. And it's my honor to be able to introduce the moderator of that panel, which is standing right behind me, Dr. Jay Hamby, who is the director of the United States USDA National Institute of Food and Agriculture. And he's going to share a few words and then get into our panel discussion. Dr. Hamby.
Good morning, everyone. Marty, thank you so much for teeing things up for us here this morning. I'm truly excited about moderating this panel. It's a personal privilege to do it. And as we think about youth leadership in American agriculture, I know many of you are actually products of this system. Is that a fair assessment? We also have a number of volunteers, ag teachers, and others who engage in developing and preparing this next generation of agriculturists in this room. Is that true as well? I mentioned being a product of the system. I was an active 4-H member in my home state of Tennessee.
Also was heavily engaged in the National FFA organization, serving as a state president and national FFA officer. And one of the things that really struck home with me is the strength of these organizations at USDA. As many of you know, Secretary Rollins, my friend, our leader, is a past state first vice president from Texas. And it's such a privilege to be working with her and her leadership, and I know firsthand in watching her every day that FFA was a key part in her success. And I know what else is in this panel this morning is a lot of success as we move forward in time and already have experienced a good measure of it. So we're going to jump into things, make sure we stay on track here this morning. Have 5 panelists. First off, from AFA, we have Chloe Eckert. Give her a hand, big round of applause. And we're going to give each just a moment to introduce themselves individually as well. But I'll introduce them all here collectively. Next, Chloe, is it Sitter Gruid? Nope.
Sitter Green.
Sitter Green, thank you so much for that clarification. Representing, obviously, FFA. Give her a round of applause. Carly Abbott, representing 4-H. Let's give Carly a round of applause. Manners, Ruth Fennell. And representing our Tribal Agriculture Fellowship, Sydney Ivey. Let's go in order here as we begin. If you would, Chloe, we'll begin with you here at AFA. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey that's brought you to the stage this morning.
Well, thank you for Thank you, Chloe. Thank you for the generous welcome, Dr. Hamby. Hello, fellow agriculturalists. My name is Chloe Ecord. I am from rural America, rural Kansas to be exact, where I grew up showing hogs and helping out on the dairy. I now attend school in Western Kansas, where I study agriculture communications and minor in ag business with future hopes of developing policy. Today, I am representing AFA, which stands for Agriculture Future of America. We're actually headquartered out of Kansas City, so I have the shortest drive on the team. We are a nonprofit that serves college students interested in food and agriculture across the nation. So we have a pretty wide reach. We are able to do this through hosting a leaders conference in the fall where we connect students with industry professionals, where we offer them mentorship as well as future career exploration. We also have 6 institutes which are more specialized. Those are conferences held across the country that are industry specific. And finally, the journey just doesn't end with graduation. You can also be involved with AFA through their alumni and help give back and then stay connected through your future. My current role, I'm serving on the student advisory team. It's a year tenure, so we're a few months into that, and I have a few teammates here with me today. There's a group of 12 of us that serve as the on-site facilitation and hosting people.
Our other Chloe.
My name's Chloe Zittergreen, and I am the state president this year for the Iowa FFA Association, but I'm in part of representing the National FFA organization here today. And for those of you who aren't familiar, you've seen probably me and some of some good friends of mine walking around in our blue corduroy jackets, but the National FFA organization is the largest student-led organization across the country. With over 1 million members, we strive for personal growth, career success, and premier leadership, and helping build those soft skills and those career skills that the industry is looking for every single day within students in agriculture, and really honing in that agriculture is for everyone, and that you don't have to grow up on a farm to be in agriculture, because agriculture affects everyone every day. And so we're really trying to grow those skills within students and truthfully prepare them for a career in the future and be the future leaders.
Thank you, Chloe.
All right. Hi everyone, my name is Carly Abbott. I am from the eastern shore of Maryland, about 2 hours away, a small town called Trapp. I was in 4-H for 11 years before I became a 4-H program assistant and then also serve on the National 4-H Council's Young Alumni Advisory Committee. 4-H is the largest youth development organization in the country. We serve 6 million youth and we hope to serve 10 million by 2030. We are so excited to be here. We try to show life development skills to youth as well as giving ag, science, any kind of project area a chance. We are in every zip code in the country thanks to our land-grant universities, and the National Council's Young Alumni Advisory Committee is a way for 4-Hers ages 5 to 18 in traditional 4-H. Once you age out of that, our alumni are able to come in here. We're all between the ages of 18 and 24, and we're able to give our voice to the council and share our experiences, especially since we recently aged out of 4-H, and try to help make decisions to make 4-H even better.
Thank you, Carly. Ruth.
Well, hi everyone. I am Ruth Fennell. I am a second-year PhD student at Alabama A&M University, majoring in food science with a concentration in product development. I am originally from Miami, Florida, the sunny, sunshine state of Florida. And I'm here representing Manners, an organization that is dedicated to academic and professional advancement. We want to be considered the pipeline to the industry. And so through there, we provide opportunities on leadership development, workforce development, and also networking. We strive on being a member for life. So we start all the way from 6th grade, all the way up to retirement. And this organization is dear to my heart that I decided to serve as the National Graduate Student President.
Thank you. Thank you, Ruth. And Sydney.
Hi everyone, my name is Sydney Ivey. I am a student at NC State University studying Ag Business Management. I'm here today with the Tribal Agricultural Fellowship, which is a fellowship program that has 2 sectors. One is K through 12, and then our fellows who are collegiate, pursuing a degree in agriculture. Basically what our program does is it bridges the gap for Native American students and just brings them back to agriculture. Obviously our program decided that there was a need for that bridge, and we made it accessible for those students. We provide fundamental opportunities for them to grow professionally as well as pursue a degree and explore those agricultural opportunities.
Thank you so much, Sydney. So for National Ag Day, the theme this year is Agriculture Together We Grow. With that in mind, I want to lever off of that theme for a few moments here with our first question. And how does that theme, Together We Grow, connect with your own personal journey in agriculture? And then also maybe identify some of the experiences that have shaped your understanding of the importance of community and collaboration within the agricultural sector. Maybe, Carly, let's start off with you and then we can bounce around from there.
Sounds good. So I am somewhat a traditional background. I grew up surrounded by agriculture. However, I did not see myself directly involved in it. My great-grandfather had a farm in Maryland. It was broiler chickens, soybeans, corn, the usual. I grew up every week going there doing chores. It's kind of, I saw myself working in it. I did not see how it tied to me. 4-H gave me the opportunity to do that through their many project areas. I was able to learn more about agriculture and see how it related to everyone. And then from there on, I went to college. I was actually a computer science major, completely different, and I did not like it. So I switched to environmental science, and that's where I was able to kind of tie in agriculture and invasive species, which was my major. Throughout that, I kind of stayed connected with 4-H. I became a 4-H program assistant for my county, and then I actually found an internship or a promotional ambassador position with the Maryland-Delaware Watermelon Association. And that really connected me in a way that I was able to find out how agriculture really included everyone, stakeholders, consumers, just the whole 9 yards. And that gave me the opportunity to see how farmers work, go to farms and actually plant watermelons, go to DC for the International Fresh Produce Association's conference and talk to policymakers, and then also see key stakeholders and industry professionals and how they work, our bin makers and our logistics companies. And it was a different way to see how many pieces play a role in agriculture. And then that also led me to going back to my county and teaching our youth in 4-H that it's not just a farmer. While the farmer is a big piece of it, any kind of career that you want, there is a way to tie it to agriculture. And I think that no matter what, with the Together We Grow, there's so many pieces and so many people that need to be involved that we need to make sure we have as many voices as possible at the table to kind of get any voice and any different experience that we can and be able to find solutions to some of our problems.
Thank you for that. Maybe Ruth, let's have your perspective as a PhD student on that one.
Yes. So I did not traditionally have the agricultural background. I was in science and health, so I was pre-med undergrad, and I got into food science as a master's student. And so as a PhD student in food science, my research actually focuses on creating a functional food using turmeric and sweet potato to help women with polycystic ovarian syndrome, other known as PCOS. And so through that, I learned that agriculture is not just about production, it's about people. The farmer who gives me the ingredients, the researcher, the scientist who studies that, and then moving on to the communities. And we need the community and the consumer because if they want to be able to have a better option. And so that kind of thrives. And I think Manners really does a great thing about collaboration, right? They teach me how to collaborate with others, share knowledge, development, and that is just what Together We Grow stands for.
Thank you, thank you. Yes, absolutely. Chloe, what about your take on this question?
Well, I think starting off in the community aspect, I believe it was Ruth yesterday. We were going around meeting everyone, doing introductions, and we were all laughing. She goes, "Yep, we're all laughing together. It means that we're family and we're community." And I think that just goes to show a lot for the agriculture industry of we are such a close-knit community of people working towards the same common goal and common objective. But when I think about how we can all grow, there is a leadership development event in FFA called the Creed. And so freshman members memorize the FFA Creed and they go and present it. Our agricultural educators or our ag teachers, anyone who's been in FFA can agree that they push us and they see the potential in us and how we can grow before we do. My freshman year, my ag teacher was like, "Hey, you're gonna be our Creed speaker this year." I backed out. I was way too scared. I refused to talk in front of people. And here I am sitting on a panel next to some amazing other individuals speaking about agriculture. And this just goes to show the lengths of how the National FFA organization is helping students grow in different areas of leadership, communication, public speaking, into workers that will then go into the agricultural field and be leaders. So the ag field is such a broad industry, but it's such a small, tight-knit community that kind of feels like family that is constantly growing and preparing people for the future.
Thank you, Chloe. What a great testimony on that front, too. Sydney?
Yeah, kind of going off of all of that, when I think of Together We Grow, I also did not come from an agriculture background. I actually found my passion for agriculture through the FFA program, just like I feel like many of us in this room have. Kind of started off and just fell in love and kind of dove in and felt the need to be a part. Maybe not farming necessarily, but being a part of agriculture and being in the industry. When it comes to Taft specifically, we've had so many opportunities to meet indigenous farmers and go to their farms and see the things that they're working on and going through. And it just shows that everyone's willing to pour into us, and everyone who knows that you're passionate about agriculture wants to push you to pursue that. And I think that's what I think of when I think of Together We Grow, is everyone coming together to work to this bigger goal and just to help each other succeed and to really show agriculture for what it truly is.
Wonderful, wonderful. Chloe, finish us up, please.
Dr. Hamby, in your question, you talked about collaboration and community, and I want to talk about my community. I grew up living and loving rural Kansas, and I also just moved to college in a rural town in western Kansas to pursue school. Through that, I've learned that a successful small community, rural community, is only capable and able to do that through thriving agriculture, a successful main street, and a community that backs them and wants to spend their dollars within that community. And as I shift my focus from a geographical community to the larger agriculture community, I reflect on an experience that I had with AFA. We were able to go into downtown Kansas City. My student advisory team, we presented to 7th graders about farm to table, the food system, specifically in my rotation that we did. And we were wondering, how are we going to do this? Well, the activity that we came up with, we had a bag of skinny popcorn and a popcorn kernel, and we said, okay, we want you to help walk us through the steps getting that kernel to the bag. And in that, we were able to show the students by asking them questions. You know, we talk about the growing phase, so let's grow, and then we're going to harvest it. And we'd, back up, let's ask you a question. What happens if there's bugs? Can the farmer phone a friend? And I was just able to reflect on the community aspect, and that growth is only possible to achieve by all of us working together in the agriculture community.
Thank you very much. Let's give him a round of applause for that response. I want to make a pivot and maybe tie in just a bit, Chloe, into your answer. We talked about community. Several years ago, I had the opportunity to facilitate a listening session with industry stakeholders with the National Pork Board out in Iowa. And as we were talking, and Secretary Rollins mentioned this earlier, that we have fewer than 2% of our population actively engaged in production agriculture. If we go back 100 years, it was much closer to 30 that had some tie directly to production ag. And I can recall when I was growing up, when I was a 4-H'er, when I was an FFA member, we spoke to most consumers being 2 or 3 generations removed from the family farm. Well, I'm not nearly as young as I used to be, so now I think the probably more accurate reflection is it's 4 or 5 generations removed. And during the course of that discussion, we talked about the importance of educating consumers about agriculture because, again, many are far removed from the production sector. One of the stakeholders made the comment, she said, education is important, but we need to think about it in a two-way stream. We need to engage with consumers. And it was a pivot point. The room got very quiet, and it was an aha moment, if you will. Because again, it's not just about us trying to instill agricultural literacy. It's also about understanding what consumers want from us as an industry too, right? And with that in mind, as we think about your generation, how can we best engage with consumers? As we think about, again, this theme, Together We Grow, how can we better engage as an agricultural industry with consumers? And I'll let this just kind of go free form if somebody wants to jump in.
I think it's more of being relatable. I think finding what people can relate to. So making sure they understand that agriculture is everywhere around them, from the clothes they wear, from the food that they eat. You know, everybody loves food in here. That's how we connect with each other. That's how we talk, start conversations. And it's simple as just food, right? And I think also meeting them where they are, storytelling, using social media, education. I think Manners does a great job of having our junior Manners program where we're starting from 6th grade to allowing the students to actually understand, learn, educate them. So then we're building a pipeline. So that we're not just starting now that they're in college or now that they have already graduated, but they are actually learning from the ground and moving up. And so now they're talking with others. I had an opportunity, you were talking about in your community, but in Huntsville, Alabama, we just did our Junior Manners Institute. And this is where we brought over 50 students in a room to talk about ag and do hands-on experiences with them, and just to see the joy and the happiness of just something as touching soil or using food science or having safety, all those different things, it really brought a joy, and I think that's where we start. We start in the schools, we start in those communities. I think 4-H does a great job of connecting with the community, and so meeting them where they are, starting with food. Hey, this is food, this is how we start with that, and then using social media, storytelling. Your story matters. Your experiences matter. We're standing on the stage talking about our experiences, and we're touching someone, even if it's one person, and then that person starts to touch a next person.
Thank you for that, Ruth. Someone else.
Yeah, I agree completely with Ruth, everything she said. Social media, storytelling, going out to the consumers and talking to them, the people that are removed, and telling them our story and the people that we know's story. You know, sometimes we meet farmers from Nebraska, from Arizona and New Mexico, like I did today, and they're not going to be able to share their story with some people in Maryland when I go back, unless they come to Maryland. So I can share the story and their information that I have learned and give them examples of why agriculture is so important. Things like 4-H does, we go to county fairs, we have our state fairs, we go to community events, and we have a really good program when it comes to reaching youth ages 5 to 18. We can relate to them and show them there are so many careers and things to do in agriculture. We have a curriculum in Maryland called Agsploration that I love to teach, and it's a way to explore agriculture and all of its careers and the different ways you can get involved. And I think doing that, but also reaching adults. Today is a perfect example. National Ag Day is a way that the public can see what we do as an industry, as associations, as organizations. And it's an amazing way, but we can't just open a window. Today, I see it as a window. You're opening a little chance for the public to see what we do. We have to make sure we open the door and allow them to come in so we can hear their voices and so they can relate to us and learn our story as well as we learn their story.
I'm just going to echo what both of them said. They had great answers when it comes to social media and community engagement. I mean, we're also connected via our devices today. You go for a meeting with someone, you may be asked, do you want to go team Zoom or are you coming in person? So being in a world with such high engagements through our phones and cellular devices, our computers, social media really pivots out, as well as our media outlets. How are they helping support our farmers through their coverage? Are they shedding a positive light, maybe a not so great light on that, but also the youth involvement like they were talking about with Manners. I know there are tons of different agricultural groups that do ag in the classroom, getting students exposed at a young age to that education point of agriculture and showing them that the food we eat every day, just like they were talking about, is agriculture, and we all have a tie, even if that is 5 generations removed. And I think a lot of it, especially when it comes with social media, is being able to hear people out as humans. People ask questions because they don't always know the answer. Heck, I see things on social media every day and I'm still learning about different sectors of agriculture that I'm not familiar with, but being able to have a civil conversation with someone and have genuine curiosity about a topic in agriculture, or asking someone, why do you do this XYZ thing this way? And being able to hear them out, I think, is a great thing that comes from both producer and consumer side of educating all about agriculture.
If I had to sum my answer up in 2 words, it would be your question to engagement. It would be mutual respect. And to expand a little bit further on that, as I walk up and down grocery aisles, I see consumers flipping their product over, reading the back of it. They're looking at the label, they're checking the nutrition and the ingredients. And this label right here is a promise to the American people. And labeling is messaging, and messaging is how we tell our story. And we need to put truth back into the minds and hearts of the American people, and that's a way to do it.
Okay, I'm gonna kind of sum up everything that everyone said, but I really do believe the conversation really does start with good communication and trust, but going both ways, just kind of like you said, like a mutual respect. I think, especially with people our age, there is so much going on with social media that we see so many things we don't know what's real and what's not real. So using that network and that opportunity is one great way to do it, but I think that communication, going to streets, and the in-person conversations we get to have, and all these organizations that are up here, of course I'm specifically thinking about TAF, but we get opportunities to see farmers one-on-one in person. We get to go visit their farms and see what they're going through, what they're working in, and those are the things that make a difference. So just really thinking about storytelling and sharing what you're going through, sharing what your experience is so important, and it helps, especially our age, get emotionally attached to the situations and say, no, this is important, this is what we need to be a part of, like this is what we're called to do.
What a great set of perspectives. We probably have time for one more question. It's an important one in my mind's eye. I want to channel our great Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, once more. She spoke earlier about us being the world's breadbasket. And I want to put just a little more meat on the bones there from the standpoint of what tremendous responsibility we have. The United States is roughly 16% of the world's inhabited landmass. And I don't know if we have any soil scientists in the room, but I remember Dr. John Gerville at the University of Tennessee talked about the top 2 soil orders. He said the first one is mollisols, and the second one is alpha sols. And everything else is a relatively distant, third and then on down the line. And within our borders, we have 40% of those mollisols and alpha sols. It's pretty impressive. We are the world's breadbasket. But with that comes tremendous responsibility, wouldn't you agree? So not only do those great soils produce our food products that go directly on our plates in terms of vegetables and fruits, and again, all that we have in the orchards, those things so wonderful, but they also then help fuel. We had Tucker Brown, Throckmorton, Texas here, great social media influencer at the helm of the R.A. Brown Ranch in Throckmorton, Texas. It also gets those steers, if you will, to market too, right? Producing those feedstuffs. With that backdrop and with all that in mind, what do you see the challenges as well as opportunities in our agricultural sector and system in the next 10 years? And again, we'll just let this one flow out as it naturally does, if anyone wants to start.
I would say that some of the things that the agriculture industry does extremely well would be we are able to connect. We are able to use science-driven data to kind of show where we're coming from, give proof of this is why we're doing it. We're not just doing it for the fun of it. And this is how it helps us. I think science-driven data, specifically in innovation, we have seen how precision ag helps when it comes to pest management and disease prevention. We see how crossbreeding and selective breeding is able to help with crop yields and with efficiency, with productivity. We see how science such as grafting, as I said, I'm from a little bit of a watermelon background, and grafting watermelons onto squash rootstock is able to help with soil-borne diseases such as fusarium wilt. And that is just some of the things that we have learned, and that is a way we can continue growing in our science and be able to produce even better food and show our consumers that we do care about what we produce, and here is the information to back it up. I think one of the things in that same regard we need to work on is making sure we stay human and stay real and as emotionally available as possible. Because with the addition of technology and AI, it is such a great platform, and there are so many ways it can help our farmers. It can make them more efficient. It can make them able to handle more tasks and to better help and serve our community. However, it also can separate us from the consumer. If we're using all technology and AI, sometimes they don't see the heart of who is actually behind the products. And having our voices out there, we just need to make sure we keep showing up. We keep supporting youth programs and showing that it is people behind the product and it is not just technology.
I appreciate your question, but I do not have a crystal ball, Dr. Hamby. But my thoughts are this. Agriculture is going to continue doing what it's always done, and it's going to outdo itself year after year. So I'm going to leave it to the scientists to figure out those solutions.
One challenge I see, Iowa's very heavy producing state when we're talking corn, eggs, red meat, things of those nature. Our farmland is being bought up by different, I'm going to say storage areas, whether that is going to be for AI centers, data centers. We had a dinner last night and I was talking to a family, they're first generation dairy farmers. They're actually in the room here today, but they were talking about how many years it took them to find a farm that they would be able to purchase to start their dairy on. And with farmland, we are losing our farmland quicker than ever, as most of you have probably heard the statistics or seen the numbers for it, but how can we, that challenge gives us an opportunity. How can we support keeping our farmland as farmland, not housing developments, not data centers, and not going to people who are not going to use it as farmland? So I challenge that one challenge, turn it into an opportunity of looking for those markets to keep our farmland as farmland, because if we are not utilizing our great soil that we have here in America, how are we going to keep being the breadbasket of the world?
Thank you.
Some things that come to my mind, kind of like you said, I don't know all the answers, but I think just like we've talked about with social media being tool, communication is going to be the hardest thing for us. Obviously, I think within the agriculture world, we do a great job keeping each other up to date, but sometimes people on the outside just don't truly understand, or the information doesn't meet them in the first place. So I think with social media being as big as it is, it's going to be really hard for us to keep all the misinformation out. And I think just the best thing that we can do is just continue to try to inform people and keep them connected to agriculture, and show that even if they're not doing hands-on agriculture, that agriculture is in their lives every day. And that will make our jobs a whole lot easier.
Thank you, Sydney.
I think I'll wrap it up and kind of something that stuck out to me was the AI. As a food scientist, I'm just a food scientist, but as a food scientist, I use AI hand in hand. And I think coming in, we want to use AI as a support, not a replacement, right? We need people's experiences, people's knowledge, people's decision making, but we want to use it as a support system, not the actual replacement. And I think it comes down to collaboration. Remembering that each sector is not just a piece of the puzzle, that when we connect to each other as a whole puzzle piece, then we can continue to push ag forward. I think sometimes we kind of say, okay, I'm a farmer, I'm a rancher, I'm a scientist, I'm an industry, but we are all talking about our different sectors and not coming together as one. When we stand strong, as we say, together we grow. Together is the word. We linking hands as manners, as we talk about manners, linking hands. We link hands together and we guide our way forward. So yes, we may have some challenges, but as long as we stick together, as long as we are talking to each other, as long as we are continuing to take our surveys and we are continuing to have these meetings and these conferences, we're able to push ag forward.
Before we wrap up, Dr. Hamby, I want to make a quick note. The theme is Together We Grow, and as I look at growth, I look at these four women, young women that I sit here with, and that wouldn't have been the case 250 years ago. So I just want to put a plug for that and say that we're so grateful to have this opportunity.
Chloe, thank you for that comment. As we conclude, I want to thank you for your perspectives, and they are valuable. We think about National Ag Day, and certainly we want to celebrate the success of our agricultural industry. Whether it's those resilient farmers and ranchers that we spoke to earlier, the entire production system for those making our crop protection products, our animal health products, those ag retailers, whether it's a farmer cooperative or an independent, that get those inputs to our farmers and ranchers. And then as we think further down that value chain from point of production through processing and eventually those grocers, it's a tremendous industry. We want to celebrate the success of it, and it is the envy of the world. All of that stated, though, there's no greater thing to celebrate during National Ag Day than the next generation of agriculturists. Sydney, Ruth, Carly, Chloe, and Chloe, thank you so much for your contributions here today, and we certainly wish you the best of success going forward. Let's give them a huge round of applause. Thank you again. Appreciate it, lady.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Hamby. Terrific. And speaking of those best of the best resilient farmers, we've got a panel coming up right now where you're going to be treated to some of the most highest achieving producers we have. But first of all, again, let's thank Dr. Hamby and these students. It certainly looks like our future is in good hands with these students. Let's give them another round of applause. Okay, so go ahead and let's have our next set of guests come up. We've got representatives from the National Pork Producers Council, the American Soybean Association, and the National Association of Wheat Growers. And they're going to speak about 250 years of agriculture innovation. And I'm pleased to turn it over to a true professional. Mike Pearson is the broadcast director of Farm Progress Companies, and he is also the host of This Week in Agribusiness. So, Mike, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Marty. Much appreciated.
You bet.
Thank you, Marty. Let's give Marty a big round of applause. This isn't easy, keeping everything on track. Please grab a seat, folks. We have a fantastic panel here to continue the enthusiasm and the energy and the excitement for National Ag Day today. We are really excited to get some insights from three leading farmers and the associations they represent. Without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and let them talk a little bit about your family background and your organization. Rob, let's start with you. One minute.
Okay, Rob Brenneman, Washington, Iowa, NPPC president. I'm with the National Pork Producers Council. We represent roughly 60,000 global U.S. independent producers. We represent them for freedom to operate and do what they do best. Personally, I'm a pig farmer from Washington County, Iowa. We have roughly 55,000 sows and finish out 1.6 million pigs a year. My wife and I started it. We are fourth or fifth generation, but this is our own thing. And we have 4 kids. They're all married, and then we have 12 grandkids, and they're all involved, and they all live within a mile of our main operation, and we farm about 4,500 acres.
All right, thank you, Rob. Jamie, tell us a little bit about you and wheat growers.
Yeah, I'm Jamie Kress. I'm the president of the National Association of Wheat Growers. We represent wheat farmers across the country who produce one of the world's most important staple crops. I am a farmer. I live in southeast Idaho. My husband Corey and I, we farm there together. We have 2 children. One is in college, and we have a second child who is in high school and is excited to get out into the world, and seeing our previous panel gives me a little excitement for the future. It's a lot of fun to be a parent. But in addition to being the president of the National Association of Wheat Growers, a mom, a wife, my husband and I farm on 7,500 acres in the high mountain desert of East Idaho. So we rely strictly on rainfall, which is about 14 inches annually. And we grow wheat, we grow canola, safflower, mustard, dry peas, and chickpeas.
All right, thank you, Jamie. Dave, tell us a little bit about you.
Sure, Dave Walton. I'm also a farmer from East Central Iowa, actually not far from Rob. We run a diversified operation, soybeans, corn, beef cattle, basically cow-calf all the way to finish. And run that with my oldest son, and my wife is involved, and I also have a younger son that lives in Texas with his family. 2 grandbabies. I don't get to visit them nearly enough, but it sounds like Texas is where everyone's going here recently. I haven't been there for a while to see them, but soon. I'm also the vice president of the American Soybean Association. We represent about 500,000 soybean growers across 26 states. And that organization is a policy-focused organization. So we spend a lot of time dealing with, or working with legislators, lawmakers, rule-makers, and just working on issues that are important to farmers and our freedom to operate, and really with an eye towards the future. What potential challenges are there in the future that we need to work on?
Potential challenges, but also, of course, potential opportunities, which is what we're trying to find in agriculture. And here for National Ag Day with our theme as Together We Grow, my question to you folks, and Dave, we'll start with you on that end. What have you seen in the soybean industry as you look forward that's going to help soybean growers be more successful down the line? What are we putting in place right now that has you optimistic?
Yeah, there's a lot of things. I mean, we've heard a little bit about AI earlier today, but I've been involved in some projects at Iowa State University and locally that really is using that to provide tools for farmers, so we can identify maybe a pest before it becomes economically damaging. Looking at a disease before we can notice it by the eye. So there's a lot of things like that are coming along. You know, we have a great generation of people coming up. My youngest son, or my oldest son is 32, like I said. He brings a whole different perspective to this than I do. And it kind of re-encourages you every day. And also seeing the young people that we saw in the panel earlier, those are the folks that are going to figure out the next generation of problems. There's always something in agriculture, always something coming at us, whether it be pest resistance, weed management, genetics of our crops, all those kinds of things. So those things are things that we need to work on, but also gives us hope for the future to add to our crop and our profitability.
Thank you, Dave. Jamie, how about you in the wheat industry? What advances are happening that point to a promising future?
Yeah, so something that's very exciting in the wheat industry is the wheat that we are growing today is by far more pest resistant, disease resistant. It's a better quality for the end user, but it's also yielding well for the farmer. And all of these advancements in recent years have come together because of the work that happens at our land-grant universities. And that's kind of unique to the wheat industry, that so much of that work happens at that university level versus the private level. And as we talk about food production in the United States and ensuring that we have a stable supply here, that's something to not forget, is that work that happens at the land-grant university. In the last 10 years, China has outspent the United States 2-to-1 when it comes to that public investment in the public research space. And if we want to continue to produce American food on American soil, we need to make sure we keep up with the American investment in our agriculture. Another thing I thought about with your question is just what we have seen in my lifetime. So I'm married into the family, and I've been farming with my husband for over 20 years now, but it's special to me to think about the history that I'm part of. So I go back and I look through family photo albums, and it's fun because I recognize the field or the shot or the place, but I don't know those people, right? And there's one of my husband's grandfather, or his great-grandfather, sorry, it catches my attention. It's him with it's labeled Henry Kress's first combine. And he's got a bunch of horses out there pulling this machinery. The men are riding it. It looks terribly inefficient and uncomfortable. And that wasn't too long ago on our farm. And now I have my son, who I mentioned is at college. He's our primary operator. We just have one combine on our farm. He hops in this behemoth machine that is about 550 horsepower. It self-levels on hills. It has four-wheel drive. It is guided by GPS. His sister pulls up with the tractor and the grain cart, also guided by GPS, gets within feet of his 45-foot header, fills tens of thousands of pounds of wheat into her grain cart, and they don't skip a beat. And it is just amazing to me. I hope that you go back and that generation is smiling, looking at generation number 5, guided with the innovation and the technology in our industry today.
Makes you wonder what the future is going to hold. How much more can this equipment change? Rob, the livestock side faces separate challenges, but also a lot of the similar ones to row crop producers. What are you excited for?
Yeah, look, a lot of similarities to what you said, and I'm sure Grandpa's looking down and saying, what the hell's going on, So, but anyway, we got the same thing. When I graduated from high school in '76, we were 14 pigs per sow. Now we've got sows that are over 40, and all that's through better genetics and a lot of technology. We had daily gains of 1.5, now we're 2, and feed conversions of 5, now we're 2.5, and so that's all less water, less usage, all that stuff. And so when we look at that technology as it grows, and today we've got technology in our farms that we can measure what every sow eats every day and what time she eats, and we can tell her what she needs to eat, how much water she drinks. And it's the same way in our finishing barns. We can't measure it by the pig yet, but someday I promise you we will. And the thing that plays into is the younger generation and TN visas that come in from Mexico. They love technology. It encourages them to want to go to work and be there. This last 2 years, which is amazing, we've hired 6 or 7 high school kids that graduated out of high school and wanted to work on a farm, and it's because it's not quite as hard work as it was, it's mentality. But that generation is picking up on that, and that is going to be our future, and they're going to lead that, and AI plays right into that. Sometimes I think it doesn't know exactly what you need to know, but we're working on some stuff to, quote, teach the AI today. And I think if our employees are happy and they want to do that, now granted it doesn't get away from loading pigs and some of the complexity it takes, but it's about efficiencies. And you know, with the 4-H kids and FFA kids who were on the stage here earlier, that is what motivated me to do whatever I did. My FFA advisor said, where there's a will, there's a way. I wake up every day, how can I be better today than I was yesterday? And sometimes that gets complicated for everybody. But our future is in the next generation. We got to make it simpler. We got to make them happy to want to do this. Otherwise, they're going to walk away.
Make it simple, make it easy, make it exciting for folks to come to work. That makes a lot of sense. Now here, of course, National Ag Day celebrating Together We Grow. We've just heard about all three of you represent organizations that are producers coming together to fight for what they believe they need. But we're also in a period where the entire industry is trying to build demand. We're trying to increase our exports. Let's talk about how we can do that together as associations coming together. Rob, I know National Pork Producers have partnered with other commodity groups. Can you talk a little bit about why you've done that and how well it's worked?
Well, we're rural America. We're all one, whether we realize it or not, and so we have to get along. We need feed stuff, and they need manure and fertilizer, and so we work in the same fields, you know, from waters of the U.S., which we heard about earlier, which are tremendous to get that stuff fixed. But as we work together, when we come to D.C., when we talk to the people that represent us and want to do it, we can't say, well, I don't like what that organization does. We've got to be in the same team. We've got to communicate. That is our future to being rural America. That gives excitement to the next generation because they know we're not fighting all the time. And we do that really, really well, I believe.
Jamie, are there any examples you can think of where National Association of Wheat Growers have partnered with other commodity organizations to help raise all boats?
Yeah, exactly. Last fall, there was a really unique example where a lot of our commodities got together with other industry, people that our success matters to, right? Our input providers and everybody gathered to hit the hill together, right? We share a lot of the same message a lot of the time, but it's not every day that we do it collectively. So that was a terrific example of all of us coming together and saying, hey, we need a farm bill, which, hey, we need a farm bill, right? We're still there. But there's so much that we share. And when you talk about the boats and the tide raising collectively, it really is true. So in this day and age, a farmer is not necessarily just the farmer of a single commodity anymore. It's a lot of commodities on each farm. And not only that, but a lot of times we have that combination of animal agriculture and a row crop. And so we really are tied together in such a way that it requires all of us to pull together and to lift together, and it can make a difference. You know, wheat is not a feedstock for biofuels, but because our industries are so closely tied together, it's good for us as a wheat industry as well to have good biofuel policy in the United States. And so that's the way that we work together, because it matters to all of us, even if it's not directly affected.
That's a great point. And Dave, of course, lots of your members are 50% growers of the soy, right? And then their corn maybe on the other half. How do you build those partnerships?
Well, it's really kind of an easy thing I think of today, and I don't think it was always that way, but we've built what I, in my own mind, think of as the Barnyard Coalition. So, I mean, a lot of the problems that farmers have are similar across commodities. But what we're trying to do today, and the other two talked about this, is build a coalition of other farm groups. So when we do have an issue, and she mentioned biofuels. This is one where a lot of the groups actually did come together, not only in agriculture, but they saw the power of agriculture, and we had industry groups from outside. Believe it or not, we had the petroleum industry on our side for a while. We had biofuel producers on our side, and they saw the power of what agriculture can do together when we coalesce around a common goal and really push that forward. And that's really important, especially when we're here in DC, because when we go to the Hill, the people in Congress want to hear a unified voice. They want to know that we're all on the same page and we've got an agreement and this is what we'd like to do. When they hear a variety of different voices, they don't know which way to go. So it's really important for us to build that coalition between animal ag and cereal grains and coarse grains, and all those organizations really have to come together and make a decision how we want to move forward and then take it in. Biofuels we're on the cusp of an announcement. We've been expecting it for a while. Friday, I got my fingers crossed it comes out. But that's a point where if the renewable volumes continue to grow and the crush margin or the crush industry expands to feed oil into that, then we have meal that needs a place. And so we need guys like Rob to continue to grow on the animal agriculture side to use up that meal. And so it all kind of works together here, and that's why we need to keep that coalition together and work to move forward.
It does matter. It seems like when we get to Washington, D.C., the ability to present that unified voice. And of course, here we are in D.C., in the USDA building. We've got a lot to come yet on this National Ag Day, so let's close with this question. As you three look out to the remainder of 2026 for your organizations, what is a top priority for the American Soybean Association, Dave, that you'd like to see get across the finish line this year?
You're asking me for answer 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D. Farm Bill. Farm Bill. We need to get a Farm Bill done. It's years past due, and we need to get it done. We need to get the RVO volumes out so that the biodiesel industry can continue to move forward. They're in uncertain times right now. They don't know what the landscape is in front of them. We get that announcement out, and then they know how to grow. The crush plants can turn back on. The biodiesel producers can turn back on. And then we have regulatory issues. I mean, just getting a new chemistry through regulatory approval and out to us so we have a new tool in our toolbox has been painfully slow. We're working to streamline that, and I think there is hope on the horizon to get that streamlined. So really, and then trade. We have issues with trade around the world. We've seen bright spots. The rest of the world, we're increasing trade. With China, we still have issues. That's why that domestic demand is key for us again, but trade issues around the world are another thing that we need to get done this year. So 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D.
I appreciate the breakdown. Thank you, Dave. Jamie, how about your perspective from the wheat growers?
Very much the same, very different, right? It's a lot of the things like we just talked about that matter to both of these gentlemen matter to wheat as well. I think for us, a very significant issue at the moment is taking a look at the cost of production. We have farmers out on the countryside who have been losing money on every acre for multiple years. And our organization has just released a study this morning showing the impact of the countervailing duties on phosphate fertilizers, specifically on the wheat industry. And so that provides us an opportunity to continue to push and to talk about what we can do. We can't control the global market, but we need to ensure we're not doing things in the United States that are making it difficult for our farmers to stay in business. So we're going to continue to look at that cost of production, specifically that issue, but there's also a tremendous amount of stress in the countryside. And I don't know as an organization that we can particularly solve that when it comes to farmer mental health. We have a lot of producers who are feeling the weight of what it takes to be in agriculture right now. And I know indirectly we definitely make a difference when our organizations are doing the work that we do here in Washington, D.C., and the policy work and helping to give that farmer some hope. But hope is not a strategy. Hope does not pay our bills at home. And so we have to keep that in mind when we talk about food in the United States. There really are people behind that. And as we make that connection, that is truly significant. But our organization will continue to work on Farm Bill and regulatory issues. Many of those things are the same for all of us. Definitely appreciate where we came with One Big Beautiful Bill Act last summer. That made a huge difference, and we're looking forward to that. A lot of those improvements really coming into play this fall.
That makes sense. Rob, from the livestock pork perspective?
Well, we need a farm bill. We need a fix of Prop 12. We cannot have 50 different ways to raise pigs. It just does not exist. And we just need a fix to that. We need definitely trade. Trade is a big part of pork production, and tariffs hurt. Sometimes that is turned into a positive, sometimes not. We need a solid workforce. That is very complicated, and we need that now. There's still issues because if we want the next generation to be involved, they need people that are willing to work too. The positives, I believe the dietary guidelines have been a huge help for the meat and pork industry. That gives direction on how to eat and how helps our school systems. And like I said earlier, the workforce is one of the biggest ones. Prop 12 is one of the biggest ones.
As I listen to the three of you talk, it sounds like there's a lot of pride in what we've built over the past 250 years here in American agriculture. There's some concern about where we're at today, some optimism for fixes, but it sounds like you're all still bullish on the future of American agriculture. Folks, let's thank our panelists for taking the time to be with us today. Rob Brenneman, National Pork Producers, Jamie Kress, National Association of Wheat Growers, and Dave Walton with the American Soybean Association. Thank you all so much for the time. Thank you all for letting us be a part of your celebration for National Ag Day. And now let's get Marty back on stage to keep things moving forward this morning. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mike. Boy, it takes a true professional to get us back on schedule, and you did just that. Thank you very much. Jamie, Dave, Rob, it was a pleasure to have you part of our National Ag Day celebration. And next up, we're going to get a real treat to talk to an outstanding young farmer. Today's farmer is an active citizen. They participate in everything from local and state government to civic organizations, and understanding that it takes a farmer leader now more than ever. The National Young Farmer Organization program was established to recognize the outstanding achievements in agriculture as well as community and community involvement and contributions. One of the national outstanding young farmers is Brody Staple. He is the owner of Staple Farms in Howards Grove, Wisconsin, which is a family business dedicated to bringing wholesome goodness of the farm to your table. The Staple Farms, has a deep-rooted passion for regenerative farming practices and a commitment to delivering high-quality products. They see their mission as being part of our country's food security, which fits perfectly in with our Ag Day theme. So please, without any further ado, let's welcome Brady Staple.
Thank you for that, Marty. Good morning. My name is Brody Staple. I'm honored to be here representing the outstanding farmers of America, as well as the dairymen of Wisconsin and my family, who is also here. At home in Cedar Grove, Wisconsin, I have the privilege of working side by side with my dad and my brother every day, as well as my children. Together we care for our animals, we manage our land, and we continue building something that's been shaped over generations. We run a diverse operation, dairy, beef, row crop, and it takes all of us, along with a dedicated team, to keep things moving forward. Because as some of you may know, in dairy farming, there are no days off. We can't just turn the cows off. They depend on us, and that responsibility is something we carry with a lot of pride. That connection, that what we do every day ends up nourishing a family, is what drives us. For us, farming isn't just about production. It's about responsibility, healthy soil, healthy animals, and healthy people. They're all connected, and every decision we make reflects that. But agriculture today is not without its challenges. We operate in a world of constant change. Price fluctuations, input costs are rising, and margin for error gets smaller every year. At the same time, expectations are increasing around sustainability and transparency and nutrition. Maybe one of the biggest challenges we face is the growing distance that was mentioned here today, the growing distance between people who produce food and the people who consume it. But I don't see that just as a challenge. I also see it as one of our greatest opportunities because people care more now than ever. They want to understand their food, they want to trust it, and they want to feel connected to it. It's been mentioned so many times today. So that's where we, as farmers, have an incredible role to play. We can open our doors, we can share our story, we can show not just what we do, but why we do it. And our farm, Farm Staples, we've taken that a step further by building our own creamery and bottling our own milk, bringing it directly to families' tables. It's something we're incredibly proud of because it allows us to connect directly with the people who we're feeding. And there are also encouraging signs that we're moving in the right direction. We're excited to see a renewed recognition of the value of whole, nutrient-dense foods, like milk. The recent passage of the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act is a meaningful step in reconnecting people, and especially that next generation, with real, wholesome nutrition. And for those of us back at home that are caring for dairy cows every day, that matters because we know the quality and the hard work that goes into every drop. So looking ahead, I'm incredibly optimistic, especially after today, about the future of agriculture. And a big reason for that optimism comes from the people that I've had the privilege to meet through the Outstanding Farmers of America, many of whom are in the room today. This organization and the opportunity to be here today is something I don't take lightly. It's brought farmers together from all across the country, from different backgrounds, different operations, and different perspectives. And getting to know that group, to hear their stories, to see their passion, and understand the way that they're thinking about the future has given me also a tremendous amount of confidence. Because after spending time with them, I can say with certainty that the future of American agriculture is in good hands. The next generation of farmers is thoughtful, innovative, and deeply committed to doing things better. We're focused on soil health, on efficiency, and on finding better ways to bring our products directly to the people who need them. On our farm, that means continuing to invest in the land, our animals, and our people. It means building something that lasts, not just for our family, but for the families that we serve. So as we come together to celebrate 250 years of progress in agriculture, I think about the generations before us who worked with fewer tools, fewer resources, but just as much determination. And I think about the responsibility that we have as farmers to carry that forward. Because agriculture has never been about one person, about one farm, or one moment, but really it's about all of us, farmers, industry partners, researchers, educators, and families. That's what Together We Grow means to me. At the end of the day, it isn't just about farming. It's about feeding people, building trust, and leaving something better behind. Thank you, and happy National Ag Day.
Thanks again, Brody. Really appreciate that. Okay, next up, the National Ag Day Essay Contest is a key component of National Ag Day, where we encourage students that are in the 9th through 12th grades to submit a video based on this year's theme, which is agriculture, imagining the next 250 years. This year, there were over 150 videos that were entered. 7 winners were recognized, and we want to offer a special appreciation to CHS, Corteva, and John Deere for helping sponsor this contest. Let's take a look at our first place winner, who's from Lafayette, California, and her winning submission.
Everyone, I'm out here with Jake, a third-generation California farmer. So Jake, how do we feed a future 10 billion people without wrecking the planet? It's a huge challenge, but we're doing it. We're going regenerative, using things like cover crops and no-till farming. This helps rebuild our soil and pulls carbon right out of the air. And what about the new tech? We have drones spraying super precisely and sensors everywhere, which means we're using way less water and chemicals. It's changing everything. But climate change must be hitting you hard. Yeah, The droughts and floods are brutal. That's why agrivoltaics is so exciting. We grow crops under solar panels. We get money from clean energy and create better growing conditions for the plants. So right from the dirt, farming is getting smarter, greener, and tougher. And honestly, it's pretty awesome. Thanks, Jack. Remember to support your local farmers and help grow the future.
Okay, we're almost through. We want to recognize a few people that really help make this happen. Nothing happens like this without a lot of volunteer effort, and this is a group that has been together now for a while. That is, many of us are present in the room, so I'm going to introduce all of the board members of the National Ag Day Committee. So if you're here, please stand up. We've got Miles Chiatti with John Deere, Cynthia Clanton with CHS, Isabella Chisholm with the American Farm Bureau Federation, Matt Caniglio with Farm Progress, Celia Glowacki with National FFA Organization, Gardner Hatch with the National Association of Farm Broadcasters, Lynn Henderson with Agri-Marketing Magazine, Eliza Hernandez with 4-H, Greg Horstmeyer with DTN Progressive Farmer, Beth Luter with Corteva AgriScience, Jason Lutz with AgriPulse, Emily Navarud with the Agriculture Future of America, Nick Tyndall with the American Association of Equipment Manufacturers, and Jenny Pickett, who is the Vice President and CEO of the National Agri-Marketing Association. She's also President of the Agriculture Council of America, which runs Ag Day every year. For everybody on the volunteer list, let's please give everybody a hand. Thank you again to our many sponsors, and also to the USDA for this fine facility, for the audiovisual crew, for craft services, for security, and everybody that helped put Ag Day together. Right now, after this, you can head out these doors and head just up to the right toward the People's Garden. There's going to be a celebration that starts at 12:15. From the Farm Journal Foundation, and you'll easily find that garden if you just head out these doors, head out to the right, and the activity will start out there in about 10 minutes. Thank you all for being here. Have a great Ag Day.